What up, world? Welcome to another edition of Sweet 16s, where we get your favorite artists to recite the sweetest lyrics they ever wrote. This week on our show, we have the actor, rapper, poet extraordinaire. Actually, activist, I gotta add in there. But all around, just dope artist. For me, I checked out a lot of his stuff. I've been a fan for a long time. I'm happy to have him on our show. He goes by the name of Saul Williams. How you doing, brother? Thank you for being on the show.
It's a pleasure.
First hand, second hand us. Throwing nigga cross bite. Horn nigga clock bite.
So I always start off from the beginning. Because that's what, for me, that's the most interesting part of art. It's like, where did this shit start?
I started out as a battle rapper, and when I first started writing poetry, my whole thing was to transform the idea of battling an individual to battling the injustice in the universe. And so I just kind of shifted the perspective a little bit. But I was still using elements of battle rapping when writing poems, but just not thinking about me and how fly I am. And so just shifting out of that.
How old were you
When I first started rhyming?
Yeah, let's say the first time you put pen to paper.
I was 8 or 9. You know, I was 8 or 9, and I was basically in like 3rd grade, and 2 major things happened that year. One was I heard Tila Rock, It's Yours, and which was the first hip-hop song over a breakbeat, because before that, the hip-hop songs were like over disco type stuff, you know? That's right. And or they were doing that crazy harmonizing, Treacherous 3 type stuff, which was cool, but when I heard someone rapping like commentating, illustrating, description giving, I heard that, I was like, all right, that, I mean, I'm 8, so I probably wasn't like, but you know, I felt it. Yeah. And so that same year, I did Julius Caesar in school and got cast as Mark Antony and discovered Shakespeare. And for me, discovering Shakespeare, now, I guess the third part of the cocktail is the fact that my father was a pastor, so I grew up in the church and was very familiar with the language of the Bible. So Bible, Shakespeare, hip-hop, slang, and I was just like, oh wow, you can do a lot with language. And so I started trying to write rhymes in Old English. I also studied French that year, so I started trying to write rhymes in French. I was just kind of, you know, excited about the possibilities of language. So I started rhyming when I was like 8 or 9. And yeah, it started out as a battle rapper, totally like, you know, like bragging on stuff that I didn't really have. And yeah.
Do you remember any of those?
I remember like the stuff from a little later, like wisdom. I'm wise like an owl. What does it take to make a hit and not hit a foul or a strikeout, but wipe out? Or suckers like a tidal wave. Suckers bite on lines in my rhymes. Yo, you must behave. Don't act up. Just back up. I'm human. I need air. Sit down and relax. My lyrics are your chairs, so lay down. Don't slouch on rhymes so fatal. They hurt. Ouch. I'm a psychiatrist. My lyrics are your couch, so lay down. Close your eyes and gradually unwind. I'm overflowing with knowledge. So analyze my rhyme. I'll do. Some people try to mentally dissect me with a knife. They want to stone me, my clone. I need to copy rap my life. So rappers I take that back don't even know if you're a human. Your rhymes something. Blah, blah, blah. That's me at like 14. All right, those rhymes are always like mantras for me. I was always traveling. I grew up an hour outside of New York City, so the idea of even traveling into the city for acting class, for school and stuff like that, I always had an hour on a bus, an hour on a train, and you know, and so it was always the stuff within that hour that I was either listening to or reading or writing, and so I was always, you know, going through my head with these things. And even up through when I began writing poetry, these things were like mantras for me, and so I was always kind of like reciting them in my head as I would walk or what have you. So I remember a lot of that stuff.
That brings me to my next question. How did traveling affect the way you wrote? Did it affect your direction at all? Or
the first thing that traveling did for me, one, is, I mean, I cannot overstate just the time to have to sit with headphones and listen while you're looking out a window, you know? And so there's so much that came from me, like listening. I remember listening to like Illmatic on a train going from Dakar, Senegal to Bamako, Mali, right? And it's right when Illmatic came out, and I'm visiting my mom who's exchange teaching in the Gambia, but we're going from Senegal to Mali on a 27-hour train ride. And I'm listening to Illmatic, and I'm looking outside the window in the Senegambia region, and I'm kind of contemplating how we got, from what I'm seeing to what I'm listening to, and just juxtaposing those realities. And a lot of like clarity and epiphany comes from me juxtaposing realities. And so I always felt comfortable taking notes from books I was reading and incorporating into the stuff I was thinking about, which is why you might have these varied references in poems and what have you, because it's really a kind of mashup between what I'm thinking about, what I'm reading, what someone might have said in a conversation, something I overheard in a conversation, something I saw pass on the news, it's all this stuff, and just saying, that's a crazy idea. Oh, yeah, Rwanda. These pyramids at Atlantis, and I'm just connecting these dots.
A lot of us who spend a lot of time writing, a lot of time reading, a lot of time just observing and traveling. That's what we end up being, and it's like for an artist, even for myself, I have trouble figuring out exactly where I want to go in the most potent way to get the message across.
I think it's a lot of times it's cool to make a snap judgment. So a lot of times, like, I'll make a decision. I'm going in this direction. That's the end point. And then I'll allow myself a great deal of freedom in how I arrive there. Right. Right.
What I'm always impressed with listening to your stuff too is that your memory, like the stuff that you absorb and the stuff that you perform, it's not easy to remember. I mean,
well, the thing is, it's like, if you think of all the songs you know words to, right? Yeah. One, we memorize them because we love the flow, and for me, even in a poem, like even if there's no music involved, is what I'm saying, there's a musicality in what I'm saying, and I memorize those poems like I memorize songs, so it's like, this is the next movement. I love that change. I love that change. I love how that word comes under that word, and then that connects over there, and this idea. I'm hearing it like that, and so it's like someone who might have memorized like Beethoven's Fifth or something, like, because you love the changes. You love that.
You're in it.
I'm in it,
Okay. They said you have to be emotionally attached to remember things. So that's probably part of it. Well, this is the Sweet 16, so can you give us your Sweet 16 or something that you feel represents you?
When I first contemplated what I might bring to this occasion, I was like, well, I thought of the thing I'm going to share, but when I think of like, okay, what's a good 16? I'm like, okay. There's a song I have called Raised to be Lowered off of Niggy Tardis, where I really feel like to manifest your dreams before you manifest your fears, to navigate between the treachery of self. I don't even remember that verse, but I think that's a great 16 if it is 16. But what I'm thinking of today is something that's not released yet. It's from Martyr Loser King. Dope. It's called Think Like They Book Say. All right? Okay. It's called Think Like They Book Say. Martyr Loser King is the story of a hacker whose screen name is Martyr Loser King, who is kind of like a virtual star before he gets labeled a terrorist and killed. But Martyr Loser King starts as his screen name, but it becomes a title, and there are many Martyr Loser Kings. Right. All right? And the person who takes it over directly, like in the direct line of lineage, is another character named Neptune Frost. And this song is about the meeting of Martyr Loser King and Neptune Frost. Okay. All right? It's called Think Like They Book Say. All right? And so it goes like this. It goes, met this girl on Friday night, Rocky Horror Picture Night, Cuban stogie, karaoke, purple satin bra and tights. That's what I was wearing. She was wearing red and purple light. White smoke had bright hopes. Keith Haring, straight ghost. Flowed past and towed past. We brushed hands. I took note. James Baldwin once wrote, love is not remote. Girl, boy, we seek joy. We hurt none. We heart hope. Right? Second verse is, hope hollow is fear, they say. Sasepa ekri, they say. Turu mundu, neshi mundu, pinchi kamilva, they say. Think black, them think gay. Think like their books say. Think like they think like they think like they books say. They cannot imagine if they do not see it in a book. Even when they see it, it's a book that tell them how to look. Think white, them think straight. Think like their books say. Think like they think like they think like they books say. Met a girl on Friday and I did did not see her in no book. Ain't no vulgar Cosmo that can tell me how she supposed to look. She was once a he was once a argument against the books. Mommy and her daddy loved her. She became the form she took. Think like they book say. Think like they book say. Think like they think like they think like they book say. Truth is not a theory that can be prisoned in any book. Words are sometimes prisons, sometimes prisms from the way you look. Think like they book say. Think like they book say. Blah, 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 blah. They think like they book say. That's the name of that song.
Lovely, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
And so I like that second verse, one, because the fluidity of going from like, I'm playing with a bit of French and a bit of Portuguese, and a bit of just the idea of this dude who falls in love with it's a trans girl who was actually, I mean, Neptune Frost's story is that she's actually born with both sexes, and she identifies as female. As a result of that, in most intimate encounters, she's always been, discarded, like, you're a fucking alien, until she meets Martyr Loser King, who's like, you are the one. And it's just his moment of saying, like, I don't give a fuck what they say. You're magnificent. For
everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just about that encounter. And so it starts with that idea of hope hollow is fear, they say. That comes from the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao says hope is as hollow as fear. Keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. For me, that's a crucial thing to think of, just because even when you think of like the campaign of Barack Obama and all that, and all this talk about the importance of hope, I'm always kind of like weary of the idea of hope, because my understanding of reality is just a bit more solid than the idea of just like, well, hopefully one day, like, no, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. It's not optimism. It comes from this observation that's saying, no, we're going to transcend the bullshit of our times. It's inevitable. The people can't take it.
The hungry people need something a lot more time.
Yeah, we need it. We can't take what's happening in Burundi right now. We can't take what's happening in Syria right now. We are going to transcend the moment. I don't know how much time it's going to take. I don't know how many people are going to die. I don't know how many laws they'll have to create. I don't know how much we'll have to protest. I don't know, how much, we'll have to fight for this moment to be more than this moment, but we're going to win.
Right.
And that ain't based on hope.
Hope is hollow.
Hope is hollow. So it starts there. Hope hollow is fear, they say. Ça c'est pas écrit, they say. It's not written. Because the written word, that song, Think Like They Book Say, is about how we can be misled by the written word.
Okay.
And of course, I'm playing even with the idea of scripture. And so, ça c'est pas écrit, it's not written. Ça c'est pas écrit, they say. Tudo mundo, neste mundo, pinche como eu, they say. That's a mixture of Portuguese and French, saying that everyone in the world thinks how they want to think. We all approach the world however we want to. We create our own interface, they say. Think black, then think gay. Like, we have our own fixed ways of seeing things. Like, black means criminal, or black means this, and white means this. They think like they book say. They can't escape. They cannot imagine if they do not see it in a book. Even when they see it, it's their book that tells them how to look. Think white, then think straight. Like, they're so trapped in this kind of like book. I know it's counterintuitive, the idea of like, what are you saying? Are you saying that we should abandon books? No. I'm just saying
mix, right?
that you always have to leave a room for interpretation, right? And we also have to realize that, like, if the world is operating and wars are operating off of what's written in these 2,000-year-old books, then maybe we need to write new books.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe we need to write new books. So it's about that. Ça c'est pas écrit. Think like they think gay. Think like the books say. And then it ends in this thing. Then he says, met this girl on Friday. I didn't see her in a book. That's a very simple kind of playful shit of what we always talk about, like representation in the media. I don't see someone who looks like that in Vogue. I don't see someone who looks like that in Cosmo. I don't see my idea of beauty reflected in the mainstream. But fuck that. Fuck the mainstream even, because actually, what that's symbolizing something else, and they're working from a different frame point than I'm working from. And I understand that beauty resonates from someplace much deeper than this,
what you see.
surface
It takes
idea.
courage to come from that too, or to stand up.
Exactly. So it's that, and then it ends on a truth is not a theory that can be prisoned in any book, because God has changed, truth has changed. Our understanding changes as we grow. There are things that stay fixed, but there are things that shift as we grow.
Yep.
You know, of course. Which is why, you know, there had to be a women's suffrage movement. Like there had to be, you know, being like, oh yeah, women should be able to vote. Oh yeah, you know, I guess so. You know, oh yeah, I guess black people are human. Yeah, I guess the indigenous people do deserve the land that we. Oh yeah, you know, like we have these revelations late.
I think that's just human growth. I think that's how we just grow as people, as humans.
Exactly.
Period.
Exactly. And so words are sometimes prisons, sometimes prisms from the way you look. That's how that thing ends. And it's simply that there are words that box us in ideas, and there are words and understandings that free us from ideas.
Well, thank you. You freed us today with you dropped a lot of stuff on us. And that was probably one of the best 16. And you broke it down for us. I mean,
cool.
That was another episode of Sweet 16s. I got nothing else to say, man. Saul Williams. Peace. That was amazing. That was great. That was great.
Good.
Wow. That was another dope episode of Sweet 16s. Please drop your comments below. That was the amazing Saul Williams. I don't think we're going to get something like that for a while. I'm hoping we do, but I'm speechless right now. There's a lot that went on in that interview. Make sure you go back and check out our old interviews. If there's anything or anybody that you feel should be on our show, let me know. Drop it in the comments below. If you have a Sweet 16, drop it in the comments below. And please stay tuned. We have a lot more coming. It's getting better and better every episode. I go by the name of King Rain, Rain Media, Exclaim TV. Peace.